What's your name?
Herbert. Spence.
What's your middle name?
Nelson.
When were you born?
November 22.
This lady was born on the 7th also, Susan Marsh.
They're younger than you mentioned.
Yeah. Now, keep this with your stuff, and when your relatives find this 100 years from now, they'll see where you have been taped on tape number 15. And this tape is going to be kept at the Portsmouth Public Library, on the shelf down there. So they can go down and see great-great-great-uncle Herbert.
Well, that's where the history is going to end pretty much, because we have a boy and a girl. Neither one of them have any children.
Is that right?
And won't have.
Well, so are they just refusing to have children?
Well, yes and no.
Well, let me ask you some questions. You told me your name and your date of birth, and where were you born?
Portsmouth.
Okay. And your present address, of course, here is at Hillview Retirement Center. Where it is not. Where is your address now?
769 Owensville Road, Lucasville.
Oh, okay. 769 Owensville Road, Lucasville. Are you up here visiting today, man? Or?
We come to the parlor up here to get our hair done.
Really?
Yeah.
You come all this way down to go to the beauty parlor?
Yeah.
It's the best you found, huh?
That's the only place that she can find.
Okay.
The lady up there goes to our church.
Invited you down?
Well, that's the way she got acquainted, I suppose.
Okay. Well, what is your occupation there? What, are you retired?
Retired, yes.
From what?
A multitude of things, yeah. Our last job that we had a mobile home park that we've had since 1970. And I retired from that a couple of years ago, or leased it to a fellow.
So you owned the park?
We still own the park.
And you leased it to someone? Okay. What did you do before then?
Bookkeeping. He's been bookkeeper all his life.
A bookkeeper?
Well, I was bookkeeper for Newman Parts Company for 15 years. And I left there and started Western Auto Store for about 3 years. And the doctor told me, he said, now, Herb, if you don't feel like pushing up daisies,
get out of it.
Get out of it. He said, it's just putting you under the ground.
Where was your Western Auto Store?
It was on Gaia Street, 908 Gaia.
I'm sure I remember that store.
You know where the old Valley Supply? Well, right across the street from that.
I'm sure.
And Lowe's restaurant there and pool hall. It was his building. And we leased the area.
Okay. Now, how much education do you have?
I graduated from high school.
Okay. And you're married, single, divorced, lived, separated, or all the above?
All the above.
All right.
But
you're married.
So far, it's taken 58 years
to
break out.
Have you gotten to know each other yet?
We're pretty well acquainted.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have some children.
Yes.
And a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
You said. Now, what is your son's name?
Mark.
Mark. What does he do?
Well, he's one of these guys that goes from job to job.
Okay.
He has pretty good education in what he does. He graduated from a trade school in Akron. And from there, they gave him a job. The whole class graduated.
Wow.
They placed him. And he went to Lexington, Kentucky, and worked down there in an Army depot.
Oh, I see.
Not in the Army, but
as a civilian. That must be down at Richmond. I think it's a place down there.
right.
Right. Okay. Now, is he married?
Yes, he's married.
Does he have children?
No.
Okay. Now, you have a daughter.
Yes.
And what is her name?
Linda.
Okay. And where is she and what does she do now?
She works out the egg plant.
Okay.
She's been out there, 25 years?
Is she going to lose her job and all this?
She's about to lose her job, yeah.
They're shutting down out there. Now it's terrible. What is she going to do?
Well, she put an application in with the State Department.
Yeah.
But that's up and around Dayton, between Dayton and Lima, where they want her to work.
Okay.
And, but that's going to be some time before they...
Now, is she married?
She's married. Well, I'll take that back.
She
got a divorce.
She's divorced.
In the last couple of months.
Does she have children?
No.
Now, let me ask you this. I try to create a genealogical line here. What were your parents' names?
Dad's name was Floyd, and Mother's name was Lucy.
What was her maiden name?
Corral.
Lucy Corral. Okay, now, what were your father's parents' names?
His name was Leif, I believe. Lafayette.
Okay. Lafayette, and they called him Leif?
Leif.
You didn't know we're going to have a test.
No. And I won't pass it. Going back this far.
You're getting an A so far.
What did I do yesterday? I can't remember.
What were his mother's name? Your father's mother's name? Your grandmother?
Grandma wasn't her.
No, that was my mother's mother, Corral. You know, I can't tell you. It's been so long since they passed away. But when I was a kid.
What were your mother's parents' names? Now, what is your wife's name?
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Come over here and smack him.
Well, I can't remember my grandmother's name. I was trying to come down the line. The further I go, the worse I get. No, her name is Joanne.
Joanne?
Joann.
Okay. What was your maiden name, Joanne?
Thomas. Ralph Thomas was my dad. He was a city fireman.
Right, okay. Who was your mother?
Isabel Staten was her name.
Okay.
She was a school teacher.
Okay.
Now, can you go back any further than that?
Were you in the service now?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, were you in the Army, Navy, Marine?
Army. Mm-hmm.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
No, I was taken.
When did you go in?
Let's see, they drafted me. I was 19, I think it was, on November the 7th. And I had to go for an inspection on the 9th or so. I got my notice.
What year would this be?
In 42.
Okay, the war that was going on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It'd been going on almost a year.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, but from there they gave me time. I didn't run the active service until January 2015. 45. 3.
Yeah.
You tell me the dates that I went in.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
3. Okay.
All right.
That's pretty close.
And then, all right, so when were you discharged?
I know the day I got home because that was November the 15th was the first day of hunting season. And so I was put out of the Army or whatever you want to call it the day before. Rode all night on a train to get into Portsmouth and took a cab from there at 3 o'clock in the night. And the fellow had another GI and he said, "Would you care to ride Somerville with me? Just, for company, take him up and back." And I said, "No one's going to be up this time of night anyway." "Yeah, go ahead." So he took me Somerville and back, and that's my foot of them. And he let me out, and it was probably 3:30 or so. I got home. Well, she was living with her mother.
Who's she, your wife here?
Yeah.
Okay. You were married at the time?
Oh, yeah. We'd been married, yeah. March 1st. What, March 1st? We graduated in 41. We got married in 42. I went in the Army in 43. And I got out in 40. When was War
45.
45. I got out then after Pearl Harbor. We were ready to go to the Philippines over in there.
Were they expecting you home?
Well, no. Well,
I mean, they were
yes,
expecting
they
you
knew
home.
that I'd be out. They didn't. I didn't know.
I should rephrase it. They didn't know exactly when you were home.
No.
Okay. They were very excited.
They didn't get up.
They didn't
I crept in. We had an apartment upstairs over her mother's house.
Where would that be?
On 1614 11th Street.
Here in
town, yeah. And,
so what did you have to do? Sneak in the window like the burglar?
No, sir. They had an apartment upstairs, and her uncle, did he have an apartment there too? Was he?
Yeah, he had room.
And there was, that was the only one that was up there when it was two rooms. Other people came in later.
Okay.
But anyway, while I was in the service, and I worked my way up the ladder just as a GI, they wanted me to get in because I had a pretty good as you have up here. I had more than the average guy in the outfit. They wanted me to go in and be a lieutenant over there. You know, what they call 30-day wonders or that kind of stuff. And I had seen too much of what I was in. I didn't want to get out of it. And but this didn't come on right away. And
what was your rank when you were discharged?
Staff sergeant.
Yeah. Okay. And
they wanted me to be master sergeant, and I turned it down. I told them.
Where did you do your basic training?
Fort Sutton, was it? North Carolina? Sutton, South Carolina. I went down there and couldn't find it.
Couldn't find the fort?
Well, I couldn't. We went back there for years. Yeah, we found North Carolina. But I went into town down there and Sutton, was that the name of the town?
Oh, I don't know. It was the name of the...
That skips me too.
Good afternoon. May I have your attention, please? There a moment of silence.
I think that's right.
There is a bus sheet posted for tomorrow's trip to Big Bear, leaving at 1. Today at 1, there's sneakers in the multipurpose room, and at 3, there's bingo, also in the multipurpose room. Tomorrow morning at 8, there's vegetable peeling. At 9, there's senior aerobics in the conference room. And at 1:30 tomorrow is the Parkinson support group.
We were all in bed.
Yeah.
And,
we're back.
That little dog we had, it was so nice to see him that it was sticking his tongue out, and it seemed like a fast long.
Yeah. Now you don't got your mother or...
Which dog are you talking about, right?
That's a bulldog or whatever it was. My dad had.
I got you on tape now. Look at that. Oh, no. Now, you're the wife of this guy right here, right? How do you handle that? I don't know. How does she handle it? I don't know.
Well,
many hours of therapy?
I'll tell you, she's put up with me for a long time. We've been married 58 years.
Oh, boy.
That's not a record, but better than average.
Yeah. What's the average now? 2 years?
My wife and my daughter have been married about 25 years.
Oh. I've been married 28 years.
Yeah.
20 years the first time.
It goes around. If you can stay on the thing,
well, okay. Now you found North Carolina to do your basic training, and where were you trained as an infantryman, or what was it?
Well, we just got basic training.
Oh, okay.
It was march and field trips, and those 20 miles before breakfast hikes were killers. When you went and not have too much previous. Of course, we were all, well, I would say all young either, because we had some elderly men in there.
Did you?
In their 30s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we sent a truck around the roads and picked them up when they fell out. We had one boy on there who's probably 250 pounds.
Oh.
And I think they got him as he went out the gate.
Oh, really?
But I went in at 125 pounds. And I didn't have any trouble. I made it.
Okay. Then after Fort what now?
Camp Kilmer.
Camp Kilmer. Where did you go after that?
The boat.
The boat.
The boat.
The big boat across the pond. What was the name of the boat?
Mauritania.
Mauritania.
Now, that was a luxury ship.
Did you catch that in New York?
Yeah.
Okay. And you had to go from a train on the train then from North Carolina to New York. Did you get any lead time to swing around home or anything?
No, not back home.
What you went on the Mauritania. Where did you end up? In England?
We landed in Liverpool.
Okay.
Yeah. And from there, we took another train and went down to, I had my mind on Plymouth.
Down to Plymouth?
Yeah.
It's right there on the coast.
Right on the coast.
Right on the channel. Yeah. All right.
And we had a place there that we could stay inside because it was already a campsite and it was brick and mortar or whatever. It was a building as opposed to a tent.
I think you're telling me you're starting to prepare for D-Day.
Yes.
Okay. What unit were you in?
Was in the Quartermaster Corps.
Okay.
And our job was to keep up with the Army. We were with the 29th Infantry, and I think there was 3 or 4 more that we were close to. But our job was to repair clothing, shoes. We put emblems on, and anything that they had to do, we tried to keep up with. Fields, stoves, this type of thing.
So you were with the 29th Infantry Division?
Well, not right in with them. We were right behind them, let's put it that way.
So you had to say, okay.
Because we had to keep up with them, and they'd bring their clothes and shoes and stuff back for us to repair, and we'd send them, they'd come get them, send them back. And there were quite a few times we were within gunshot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, on D-Day then, where were you?
Well, they had pulled us out of where we were and sent us to the little town of Kennisburg. And they got us back away from the coast because they knew we weren't going to be the first ones to load into those barges and things. And we did a lot of field work up there too. But then when D-Day came, things got to be a cluster.
When did you get to France?
Well, they had that terrific storm that really balled things up, and it was about 10 days before we got over there.
I see. You did have a big storm that blew the piers and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were 10 days right behind your unit there, the 29th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, we didn't know where they were or anything. We were just out there. They don't tell you anything. Here's where you set up, and that's where you stay until you need it. One thing they did do for us after we got ashore, now, and I can't remember whether it's Omaha or Utah. It's the one on the right.
One on the far right?
The one on the far right.
The Utah.
Utah. All right. Well, I think that's the one that we went in on because when they got us ashore, I remember that they stopped us going down the road a little ways, and the guard says, "Now you see that bridge down there?" Yeah. He says, "We have to repair that about every day." He says, "So when you take off from here," he says, "you give that truck all you have and shoot them across." He says, "It's rough." He says, "You get across there because they're sitting up on the hill shooting at you." So we didn't want a whole lot of that. And they didn't shoot us.
We got across.
We got across, all right.
Well, then what did you do? You drove all across France?
Yeah.
Did you go into Paris?
We went in Paris. My truck broke down in Paris.
In Paris. That's a bad place to break down.
Yeah, you come back and get us.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay. Were you married at the time you broke down in Paris? Is there anything you want to tell me about Paris? How long were you in Paris?
Just overnight till they could come back after us.
Did you see the march of the soldiers down the Arc de Triomphe and that sort of thing?
No.
Well, as you went through Paris, where did you end up?
Verviers, Belgium.
Where was it?
Verviers, Belgium.
Verviers, Belgium.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty close to the Ardennes, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Were you in that?
No.
Battle of the Bulge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We were sitting, let's say here's the front down here, or whatever. I'll move it up this way. This was the front up here. And the Germans, we were up here on this flank. And the Germans came into St. Lo, and they came down this way. They passed us, and till they got into St. Lo. And, of course, they were stopped there.
Now, of course, St. Lo would be in France. Are you talking about St. Lo or St. Faith?
Well, we were in both of them, but I thought St. Lo was in
Belgium?
France.
The St. Louis is in France.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we were with First Army here, and the First Army was over here in Spa.
Okay.
And we had gone up here to Aachen on the Rhine River.
Right, okay.
Before, and then they had they pulled us back from there because we were getting bypassed.
Were you still following the 29th?
I don't know what we were following. It didn't matter which unit we were behind. They just said,
They just bring us stuff in.
this is where you go, and this is what you do.
Okay.
And they never used, they wouldn't tell us when we pulled out where we were going or anything. They'd just load up, and that's it. And, but anyway, they passed First Army back down here. And my base where I drew my materials was out of Reims, France.
Yeah.
That's way back there.
Way down southern.
Yeah, it took 2 days to get there. And
you had a German army in between you and your supplies then, didn't you?
well, we kind of bypassed them. But that was our base down there.
I see.
And so there's a lot of things I can tell you happened on some of those trips and what I got into down there, etc. But one of my helper in my supply room, he says, Sarge, he says, let me go ahead and step. Let me go this trip. That's when the Germans were coming down through. He says, let me go this trip. And he was scared absolutely out of his shoes.
He was scared?
He was scared. He wanted to get away from here.
Oh,
And he wanted to get down there and say, oh, it's nice. The guys wore their uniform all the
Get down
time.
to Reims, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what? Go ahead.
All right.
So we loaded the truck driver in the truck, and he took off. We didn't see him for a couple, 3 weeks.
What happened?
He got up there in St. Louis, or close to St. Louis. He got in the basement of some people's houses there, and they stayed. They couldn't get out.
Oh, really? He was sort of trapped?
He was trapped.
He wanted to go.
You talk about a guy coming back, he says, why in the world did you let me go?
It's all your fault.
All my fault.
Well, did you make that trip down to Reims yourself?
Oh, many times,
Okay.
yeah.
What did you get into down there?
Well,
Making that trip.
I pulled in there one time with, I don't know, 2 or 3 semis. And we got out, and the first sergeant came up, and he says, go on in and register, whatever it was, they had a lot of paperwork then to do. And I went in and registered, and I came back out. And the fellow said, is someone looking for you? And I said, there is. And he said, yeah. I said, he was just in here a few minutes ago. He says, he saw those newspapers up there on the counter, one of our work trucks. He says, he saw that newspaper up there, Portsmouth, Ohio. And he says, he don't want to know who brought it. So I looked him up. And boy, it's like that. And he said, what do you want? I said, everything that's on these papers, stove parts and shoe parts and fill them up.
Who was he?
His name was Jaeger. He was a barber out of Medford.
Oh, I see.
Jaeger, young.
So when you came back, did you stay in contact a little bit with him?
I saw him a time or two.
Yes.
Okay.
That's interesting.
But he had a barber shop out there.
Okay. Now, after France and Belgium, you're up in Belgium here, and the Germans attack. What happens then? The Germans were driven back.
They were eventually driven back, yeah. And it was so doggone cloudy and poor weather that the Army Air Corps couldn't get out, couldn't see them, couldn't fly. And we stayed there we had pulled us back to, we were in a big building. I can't think the name of that town. But anyway, we saluted the buzz bombs as they went over. And if you didn't hear it, if it's shut off,
It's coming at you.
it's coming at you. And we had quite a few of those happen too.
Were you in Antwerp?
No, I didn't get up to Antwerp. That was in the British area.
Now you were in Aachen, though. You said, or did you go?
Aachen.
Okay. Now you're right in German territory.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from Aachen, I could see the Army up here, and any aircraft, guns, etc. and I saw a P-47 plane back there circling around. And apparently he got his signal, dive. They had a target picked out, and his plane dove, and he never came back up.
Oh, so you go right to the ground.
They shot him down. And I saw another one shot down, a P-38. That was a twin wing job. And he came over, and when he first started, all I could see was a vapor trail up there. And then I could see smoke. See, our planes left vapor trails. The German planes didn't. And this plane was trailing smoke. And he came down, and we were in this big building down here. And half of our fellows had quit their jobs and got in the building out of the trailers, because they worked primarily in the trailers. That's all our equipment. And he started down. And these guys, they made a beehive for the basement of that building. And I was clear up on the point, and I looked around and saw 150 guys trying to get in. Two-door door to go down in the basement. And I thought, shoot, I'm not seeing anything back there. I get trampled. I just went up on the corner, and I thought, well, now, if that plane comes down, I'm standing up here. I said, if that plane comes down over there, I'm going to be over here, behind that building. If it comes down over here, I'm going to be over there. I had as much protection that way as they had down the way. Anyway, he came through the roof of the house right up the street from us.
Oh, my.
The roof like that, and he came in under the roof here, and out in front of the building here, and landed out in the street.
Oh, dude.
And he couldn't get out. That was a bad part of it. Because he couldn't, you could see him in there working, trying to get his canopy off him. And he couldn't make it at all. He went right on through the building.
Well, did you end up in Germany?
We ended up in Germany. We ended up in, I'll say Vienna, but that's not right.
Prague?
No, it's
Austria.
It's in Austria.
Okay.
Salzburg, yes. Yeah.
Okay. That was kind of a nice place, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was right on the Russian line.
Yeah, it was. Pretty fun.
And
did you see any Russians?
Keep quiet.
I guess that's a yes.
The officer called me in one day and he says, Sarge, he says, I want you to go up to Vienna and look at these something or other. I'd like sending me up there to look at horses. And I didn't know anything about those stallions they had at that time. You sent me up there for a reason. And I smoked. I did smoke. And when I got ready to go, the guys in the company, hey, take my cigarettes, because they were giving like $100, $200 not a carton, but a pack.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And the Russians, so the war was over then, and the Russians were buying everything that they could buy. They'd been paid. They hadn't been paid the whole time of the war.
Oh, they got it all.
And they got it all in one lump sum. And so anyway, he sent me out to go to Vienna. And we didn't get room too far. We came to a roadblock. Well, I didn't speak Spriggans and Ghosts, and I didn't talk Russian, and, just sign language is all we knew. And this motorcycle with a sidecar on it pulled up beside us and stopped. We had stopped in a town for protection as much as anything, I suppose, rather than be caught out on the highway. But we stopped there and had lunch. We were eating, this thing stopped there, and the officer got out and up and off on the side of the trailer we had. And, I knew what that meant.
Russian?
Russian, yeah, he was Russian.
And he wanted cigarettes.
Cigarettes. Okay. And of course, he was loaded, and he got up in our camper, and we back and forth just with signs. We didn't pull out everything we had. We just maybe carton of it at a time. Well, this fellow was driving this sidecar. Man, anything you said, he would have given it out. He would have struck his pocket. He started counting money. No. Lieutenant wouldn't allow that. He got back.
So what did you get for a pack of cigarettes from this guy?
We got a little over $100 a piece
Per pack.
per pack.
$100.
Yeah. And I had.
It's almost that much today.
Yeah, I reckon. I don't know. But anyway, the fellows had given me a lot of cigarettes to carry, and I sold a lot of them. But now, if they had taken them to Berlin, they would have gotten more.
Really?
Yeah, because they lived with them in there.
Did you have any unusual experiences with the Russians other than this?
No, I think that's about the only thing that I had.
What were they like? Were they rude, or did they treat you all right? Russians?
Yeah, we never had any fights with them.
And the German people at that time, of course, were defeated. How did they treat you?
Well, I'll tell you. We had a couple of run-ins with the Germans, and we really didn't have too much of a problem. There were several things that they did, and the older people were real nice. Mm-hmm. It was the kids we had problems with.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had a tent set up someplace out in the country, wherever, and one of the other sergeants and myself sat in the tent that afternoon or evening, and two kids walked in. And I looked, at him, he looked at me, and kept your eyes open because they could stab you in the back. Mm-hmm. And so they got over around our tool board and started looking at tools, and they'd reach over and grab a hold of something. And I looked at him, I said, and I just kind of nodded that way. I said, what was this? Mark Snell took sweet Rauschautenkraut. And man, you talk about krauts roushing out, and they got out of there. Yes, they did. Never saw them again.
Did you bring any souvenirs home?
I brought a couple pairs of wooden shoes from Holland. I brought a blue pistol, Walther.
Did you?
Walther automatic pistol. And I carried it. Our company made stuff like this, and they made me a shoulder holster for it. Okay. And I wore it all the time because it wouldn't have lasted in our company. And so I wore that pistol under my arm.
You still have it?
No, I finally.
What did you do with that?
I finally sold it to her brother.
Oh.
And I never could shoot it. I get out and shoot that thing back here, and the bullets go up here. They get kick like that.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say, Herbert, about your military time? Anything about it? Do you have any tattoos you want to talk about?
No, sir. Any tattoos. I was never injured. I was close. I had a lot of close runs.
Were some of your friends injured?
The only one that was injured was the boy that was laying in his pup tent cleaning his rifle.
That's
and
what
the rifle went off and the shot went through. They took him to the hospital, bandaged up and brought him back, and he had a purple heart on.
Did he get a purple heart?
He got the purple heart on that, and the officer went over to see him, and he says, take that off. And he says, I'm going to rescind that because you wasn't in combat when you got that. No, he took it away from him. Of course, they're in the hospital. Anyone that came in, I guess,
dished him out like candy. Okay. Well, I really appreciate it very much. What was the worst thing about being in the Army?
Being away from her.
What was the best thing about being in the Army?
Best thing, I can't tell you whether there was a best thing or not. One of the experiences we had was when we came home. We came back on a Liberty ship out of, where did we come back? to Harbor, I think it was, or one of the French ports. And we got out in the ocean, and that thing started rolling. And it started, and we hit one of those North Sea, or not North Sea, but North Atlantic winter. In the first February, it was rolling pretty good. And they printed a newspaper every day while we were on that ship. You know, just to give us up to the minute news. We had no radios or anything, we could hear anything. And they would print for us every day what was going on. And one item in there, and I kept this print, one item in there was it said we had the closest call. We came last night to roll them over. Oh. He said the ship was 37 degrees. Roll back and forth.
What's the heck of a storm?
37 degrees is a pretty good roll.
Yeah, it is.
And those trash cans, they had this big 30-gallon trash cans sitting at the head of the stairs in the mess hall, and about every place was a mess hall because we were loaded with men. And those things go to the head of the stairs, and they had a lip there about that tall. And those cans would hit that lip. And they were full because the guys wouldn't need anything. They couldn't need anything.
They were full of scraps and everything?
Yeah. And they'd just go over and dump it out in those cans and go on back to their room or whatever they had. But those barrels was upset at the top of those stairs and just splashed that stuff all over the floor.
Well, thanks very much, Herbert. I appreciate it very much.
Well, you're quite welcome.
Thanks for what you did.
If you had another couple of days, I could tell you more story.
We should write it down. Write it down. Here, keep that down. All right.
Is this the only purpose of my being here and
That's your purpose.
rattling my brain?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you have something else you'd like to say?
Oh, they might be interesting, they might not. Just things that happen.
In the service?
Yep.
Name one.
Well, the lieutenant came to me one day and he says, "Come on, Sergeant." He says, "We're going to take a ride."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You don't ask where you're going. So he got me out in the Jeep. I sat up in the back, he in the front, the driver over here, and we started out. Mm-hmm. And we going down the road, and you'd see GIs here and GIs there, and a little bit we came to a barricade in the road. And the MPs had stopped. And the lieutenant says, "Officers, go on around." And he just drove out around the barricade. The MPs stand there, and they looked at him. They didn't try to stop us. They just let us go. We went all around, got back on the road, and went on. We drove down the road just a little piece, and I got to looking. Hey, it's odd to me. I don't see any soldiers. Ain't nobody around here. And we drove right on down to the riverfront.
What river? The Elbe?
I didn't ask, but I thought maybe it was still the Rhine.
The Rhine or the Elbe? The Rhine?
But anyway, it didn't matter. We got down there, and there was a soldier standing right up against the front of the building. Mm-hmm. Back of the building, I should say, because the river was across there, and he was behind the building. And we just pulled up with the guard, and the lieutenant says, "Where's your CP?" And he said, it's around basement, around the front there. And he just jumped out and went around the front, went headquarters, and we sat there for a second or two, and the guard says, "Do you like that Jeep?" The driver said, "Yeah, I like it." He says, "You better pull it up there behind this building. It won't be there in a few more minutes when they get sight on you." "What do you mean?" He said, "Germans are right over there."
So did he pull up?
And he pulled up, and about that time, a lieutenant came running around there, and he jumped in that thing, and he said, "Let's get the H out of here." He says, "We're right on the front lines." And we started up the road, and he had that Jeep floorboard. But when we got started and got away from the front of that building, the shells were going boom, 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 following us up the road.
Oh, boy.
And there was a half dozen or more of them that I don't know, it seemed like they were 30 feet or so behind me. And I was all hunkered down the back of that Jeep, all down over my head and everything. So we made it.
That's a close call. Well, thanks very much, Herbert.
Okay.
I turned off the camera there, and you started telling me another story. But you've seen Patton? You saw Patton? Yeah. Where did you see him? How did that happen?
Versus guard.
Oh, you saw him at Versus guard. Now that was Hitler's.
That was Hitler's hideout.
Yeah.
And we got up there, and they had all kind of guards out there, soldiers with some red scarves around their necks and everything. We said, "What the world's going on? Can't believe this." And no one said anything. He said, you pull over and stop. So we stopped and backtracked up. A little bit, we heard the awfulest noise you ever heard. About 30 motorcycles or so coming up the hill. And they came up, and these guys were all dressed with the red flags, where you can imagine what Patton would want. This was his guard.
That was him.
And then here he came, riding up in his vehicle, all sitting up there. And of course, everyone had to salute him. And he went on up, and we could see the entrance to the elevator that went up to the castle. And a little bit, here comes, what was the 9th Army? Clark, he came up in his. Here comes the 1st Army. I don't know.
I'm sure it wasn't Hodges or...
No, it wasn't Hodges. I don't remember that name, but it was the 1st and the 3rd and the 9th. And
you had a Devons there.
No.
Bradley?
Bradley.
Did you see Bradley?
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of whether or not...
did you ever see Eisenhower?
That's what I'm trying to think of, whether Eisenhower was there. I'm kind of inclined to believe it might have been, but...
did you ever see Montgomery?
Yes, the British, yeah. We were on the south flank of the British Army. Right up against them. But I didn't get up in that area at all, because that was up toward Belgium.
They were having a big meeting there at Purchase Garden then, weren't they?
Yeah.
Conference or something.
Yeah. It wasn't a conference, it's just a see-through type thing. They just went up there and talked to each other and reminisce, I suppose, because the war was over.
Well, you saw Hitler's hideaway there.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Did you ever get any souvenirs from Hitler's hideaway?
No.
They had the stationery and things like that around?
No. It's you didn't bother things because it was cleaned already.
Oh, cleaned out?
Yeah.
I think the 101st was there too.
It could have been. They probably cleaned it out, yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting story. You got another one?
Let me give you another one.
Give me another one.
One night, after we'd gotten in on the beach, we went to our designated area and dug our foxholes, as you're supposed to, and we were in an area where we had what do you call it? Well, hedgerow. That's good. Hedgerow. So they told us to dig in and get under the hedges. That's your protection. So, okay. So that was the day that my captain sent me to Cherbourg. He says, they've taken Cherbourg today, and he says, I want you to get down and see what you can get. Help yourself, like that, because he knew what we needed for the shoes and clothing and field equipment. And I went down, and they had most of that stuff was underground. It was in things that went clear down. And so I rallied around there and got some question of the letter. But anyway, we got what we wanted, what we needed, and then we drove back to our campsite that night. And we got back there, and lucky me, I took my
Parka or hood?
No, I'm talking about gas mask.
Oh, okay.
It'll come to me now. And I took my gas mask off, and I laid it in the tent, the supply tent, which was our supply area. And I just laid it right inside the door. I'm going to call it tent, a door. I just pulled the straps back on the door and laid it in there on the desk. In the evening wore on, and then finally went up and had supper and went on to bed. And I got in my foxhole, and another fellow, sergeant, myself, and we had just a two-man pup tent spread out there and opened up right into the foxhole. Real nice. So along about midnight, you've heard these Halloween cracklers. Crack, did you turn like that and it just makes a heck of a noise? Well, you could hear that start up way off in the distance. What's going on? Crank, 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 crank. You could just hear it coming down the line from all the soldiers. And they cranked those things, and I thought, well, that's gas rail. And I reached under my head to get my gas mask, and I didn't have it there. I left it in my supply tent. And I jumped out of that pup tent and ran, and I mean, it was pitch black. You couldn't see from here to that cut. And I went down through our mess hall, and they had fly tents and other tents down through there. And I got through that and went through a hedgerow down there, and my tent, that big tent, was right inside of it. And I reached in there and grabbed a rope, pulled it open, and here's my gas mask, and I brought it out and put it on. Well, then, I don't know, it must have taken me, it seemed like 15 minutes to get back up to my tent. I stumbled over every wire, every rope, every stake, and everything that I came to, getting back up through those tents, and my pup tent was on the other side of it. And I'm going barefoot down there. I didn't put shoes or anything on. I went through there barefoot. And come back up there to the pup tent, and I hear, Herb, because you can't talk very well with all those masks on. And he was still wearing his, and he was crawling around out there on the ground feeling for me because he couldn't see. He didn't dare turn a light on. And he was crawling. And I said, here I am. He says, you all right? And I said, yeah, I'm all right. He says, he says, I've been worried about you. I've been trying to find you. So anyway, our captain was just 10, 15 feet from us, just across the narrow place here. And we didn't know it at the time, but the next morning we found out that when he came to from being awakened, he jumped up and grabbed his mask. Well, he'd hung his up in a tree. And he reached up there and grabbed a hold of that thing and brought it out and got the thing over a limb. And he reached up and put it down over his face. And he had to stand up on his tiptoes in order to get it down on his face. And he stood there with his head up in the air that way on his tiptoes. And it was probably 2 hours before they rescinded that gas call. And he stood there on his tiptoes with his face in a mask, looking up in the air. And he was afraid to take it off.
Oh my. Did he ever live that down?
No. And another one, the same incident. We had a big hefty boy in our outfit, looked like a football player. Shoulders like so, and tapered down. And he was a brute. And he was on guard that night. And we had tents full of these shoes that we were repairing. And he was supposed to have been standing out there with his rifle. He was ready to do what was necessary. Well, the only thing was, he went in the tent and went to sleep. Well, when he woke up...
He went to sleep on guard duty?
He was asleep on guard duty, but he was also in the tent where all those stinking shoes were. And when he woke up and smelled all those shoes, he thought it was gas.
Oh, and he put on his mask?
And he put on his mask. And before he put his mask on, he knew what to do, but he didn't have any water. So he made some and wiped his face off with it. You know, and then he put the mask on, and he passed out.
No wonder.
And then our other fellows, we had sentinels in the company, and they would go around and check all the guards to see if everything was okay in their area. They came to his place and no answer. They couldn't find him. Finally, someone stumbled on him in the tent. They'd gone in the tent and checked, and he was in there. And you talk about someone being sheepish. You never saw a guy that was more bashful, more sorry for himself than he was. Well, before this had gone on, and we played ball when we were in England and sports and so forth, he was hi-ho type guy. When this happened, he was absolutely the sheepiest looking guy you ever saw.
Humbled him, didn't he?
Humbled him down to nothing. Yeah.
Herb, thanks a lot. I appreciate everything.
I'm finished. Just put it down in there.
I'm afraid maybe that didn't wrinkle it all up. Oh, you're in very good. Yeah, it's better.
what's your name?
Paul Von, that's capital V-O-N, capital L-U-H-R-T-E. Von Worthy.
When were you born?
January 13, 1915.
Is Von Worthy your last name? You say the Von.
Yeah. Von is a title name. Worthy is a
German title name, isn't it?
Yeah, German title name.
All right.
And according to my the major in charge, Worthy is a French.
Oh, really?
That's what he said. Von was German, Worthy was French.
Well, here, keep this with your stuff. Now, what this says is that you were interviewed by me on this date, and you are on tape number 15.
Okay.
And this tape will be at the Portsmouth Public Library. So if your great-great-great-nephews ever want to go down and see you, there you are.
There I am. Okay.
Now, you told me your name and your date of birth. Where were you born?
Portsmouth.
Portsmouth, Ohio. Okay. And do you live here at Hillview now?
I live in Hillview at present, yeah.
Where were you before then?
South Shore, Kentucky.
Okay. What was your occupation?
I drove a film truck.
Drove a what?
A film truck. We delivered motion picture film.
Oh, really?
To all the theaters in as far as Beckley, West Virginia.
Is that right?
Princeton, all them places.
What was the name of the company that you worked for?
Well, Huntington, Cincinnati, truck lines. I went to work for them and then changed over to a company out of Charleston, Dawson Truck Line.
I see.
And that's who I retired from.
I see. Well, how much education do you have?
High school education.
And are you married, single, divorced, widowed? Married. Okay. And how many children do you have?
No children.
And I'm trying to establish a genealogical line, too. So what were your parents' names?
Edward and Mary.
Edward and Mary. What was Mary's maiden name?
Walter.
Walter. Where were they from?
Aurora, Indiana.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. What were your father's parents' names?
My father's parents' name was Herman Von Worthy. And his grandmother, his mother, I slipped my mind.
Okay.
What her name was.
Where were they from? Illinois?
No. He was evidently from Germany because this is just hearsay from down to the family. Nothing wrote down. That he was a guard in the Kaiser's. That's where the bomb comes from.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, now let me ask you this. Were mother's parents' names?
Hauk. H-A-U-C-K.
What was her father's first name?
That, I don't know.
What was her mother's maiden name?
I don't even know. Only thing I know is Hauk.
Now, where was she from? Illinois?
No, they were from Germany.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you enlist? Were you drafted, or?
I was drafted.
Okay. And when did you go into the service?
Where?
When? The date?
When? I went in November of 43.
All right. And when were you discharged?
9 months later.
Okay.
Whatever that is, I was in there 9 months.
What was your rank when you were discharged?
What was that?
Your rank?
Oh, PFC.
Okay. Did you go in the Army, the Navy, or
I was in the Army.
Okay. Did you do basic training?
Basic training at Camp Shelby, Mississippi.
Camp Shelby? Okay. After basic training, where did you go?
After we left basic training,
we went on maneuvers in Louisiana,
Right.
and we were in there a long time. And while we were in there, our unit was transferred to Camp Pickett, Virginia.
What happened there?
Well, we were practicing boarding ships. We went out to the bay from Camp Pickett and boarded ships. And we were getting ready to go overseas. Yeah. And they were, we was taking shots. And that's where my problem originated.
What happened?
Well, we was in line. And
in line for what?
Getting shots.
Oh, getting your injections?
Yeah, getting our shots.
Okay.
And dumb me, I reached up in front of the guy like that in front of me and started squeezing on him. He just kicked me back on them big boots, you know.
Yeah.
And he kicked me on my shin. Well, I'd already had it injured, and it wouldn't heal. So I went about 2 weeks. I know what was going to happen if I went to the dispensary. And I did. I had to. And the doctor said, "How did you get in here?" I said, "Well, it wasn't me hard." And I said, but anyway, he said, "Go home and get your clothes." They put me in the base hospital at Camp Pickett 30 days and discharged.
Because this guy kicked you in the shin, basically. How was your shin injured in the first place?
Football. Iron Stadium.
When you were a kid?
Yep. That was in 1933.
Oh, was that right?
Yeah. When I got my shin hurt.
And this guy kind of re-injured your
Yes. Yeah.
So that was the end of your Army career?
That ended it. Yeah. At the time, I didn't want out. When you're in the States, you have a pretty good time. Mm-hmm. And there was nobody at home. Everybody else was gone. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't want out, but they went to the South Pacific.
Oh, this guy went down to the South Pacific.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what came of it after that?
There was only one instance that I've read a lot of books, and I've only run across one account of the 155th Infantry Division in a battle. And it didn't say what battle it was. It just mentioned that the 155th moved in on this battle. But outside that, I don't know.
It's not one that I've heard about, the 155th.
It was attached to the 31st Division, the 155th Infantry.
And you stuck with it for?
I stuck with it from 1944 until 75 when I retired.
That's kind of interesting where you end up with a career. You didn't want to jump.
No, at that time I really didn't. I know I was going to have to go to work, but not a week or so after I got out,
Is there anything else you'd like to say, like to tell me? Where did you grow up? In Portsmouth?
Yeah, I grew up in Portsmouth.
So you played Portsmouth football?
Played with, at the time it was Central Catholic.
Central Catholic in Portsmouth?
Yes. That was Holy Redeemer and St. Mary's.
All right.
Played under a separate school. Played under a Central Catholic name.
I see. Okay.
And
you played in Ironton and got hurt.
We were playing Ironton St. Joseph. And
they're still there.
Oh, yeah. Now, that was back in time when they marked the field with lime. And somewhere or other I got my shin hurt a little bit, and it got infected. And back in that times they had no antibiotics or these wonder drugs. And I've had various, Tom Williams for one, the surgeon up in Columbus, said, I don't see how you survived that. He said, we had nothing to cure it. But I did. I come out of it. Still got it.
Well, I was going to ask you, ever have trouble with that leg?
Every so often. If I get it hit it.
How about the weather? Does the weather bother?
No, weather doesn't bother.
Just if you bump it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for coming in. I appreciate it.
Okay. I'm sorry, that's all I got to offer.
That's plenty.
Okay.
Okay.